The University of Colorado Regents named former Minnesota Congressman Mark Kennedy as its sole finalist to replace President Bruce Benson. The decision has come under fire due to more research being into the voting record of Kennedy in Congress, where he voted against both civil unions and a variety of other issues that is causing critics to come on, wait a second, there wasn't any other finalist to offer. Patty, do you think the Regents expected this kind of a blow-up from their announcement, especially of a sole finalist for the position?
I think the Regents, since they are Regents for a university system, maybe have heard of the term Google. What they needed to do was do a little Googling on Mark Kennedy and realize that whatever his record in North Dakota, he had a record when he was in Congress too, which is very conservative, very at odds with what you're going to find in Boulder, which is the flagship. Now, Bruce Benson, who is a Republican, who's been the president, has shown that this is not really a position for someone who is an academic. I mean, it is a political position. You are lobbying the legislators, you are raising money, but you could probably find someone more in sync with not just Boulder, but with Colorado than Mark Kennedy. It's not just that he was the sole finalist. It was that he was so ill-advised that he announced he was the sole, you know, he basically told his college, I'm out of here, North Dakota. And then meanwhile, they are not taking it well because he essentially called the state full of racists and misogynists, because if you'd Googled, you would have seen he was in trouble, not just for his votes in Congress, but he had a chief assistant who he gave a $30,000 raise to, let her move to Texas, gave her $25,000 to move to Texas, and let her work remotely. That was his plan. And when people criticized it in North Dakota, he told the Boulder Camera they were basically being racist because she was African American. I think any one of us at this table could tell you we don't care what color our public employees are, but they should probably work within the same state.
That would certainly be ideal. You think that'd be part of the package. Joey, do you sense any sort of political fallout for the Regents that have to now respond to not only the criticism of the voting record, but also of providing a sole finalist? Even if this guy came out like an angel, a sole finalist is not a good press release make. What do you think?
Right. Well, you know, Bruce Benson proves that that the president doesn't have to necessarily reflect the student body. You know, you don't find people much more conservative than Bruce Benson, and I think that he's had a very successful tenure at CU, and he inherited a ship that was in trouble, both financially and in terms of controversy. You know, Kennedy's going to be great for reporters. I can already see that, that he's going to be fun to cover. But you know what Bruce Benson was really good at? He was good at raising money, and I think that's the job that's the position that they're looking to fill. And you know, Kennedy has run a university, the University of North Dakota, and before he was in Congress, he worked for Pillsbury, so he knows how to raise dough.
See, this is why we call Joey Bunch ratings gold. You just don't get that from any other panelist. Thank you, Joey. Eric, do you see any, I guess, repercussions for the Regents? Do they need to have more explanation? It was a unanimous vote, so it's not as if they could say, well, you know, let us rethink this, but there still technically is this waiting period before a vote. Could that be fraught with problems for Mark Kennedy?
I think it is fraught with problems. I think this thing is going to get hotter before it cools off. I think it could go either way. Remember the use of the word regents. It's occurred to me that maybe the Board of Regents needs some regents to run this thing and bring some adult supervision here. I thought the story in this morning's Denver Post made the Regents look very weak, that their hand got forced by some report in the Grand Forks newspaper that maybe jumped the gun by 24 hours or something and didn't allow the Regents to do full vetting. You have to assume something like that is going to leak. You have to have your vetting done in a timely way. Patty's absolutely right with this newfound invention called Google. This is not, you know, this is not deep research that uncovered all of this. We heard some of the same music all those years ago when Bruce Benson was named a finalist and then appointed to the job, given his conservative background in Colorado Republican politics, etc. The difference was Bruce Benson had enough of a reservoir of support and people who knew him in this town to rally in his favor and talk about all the assets he would bring to the institution. I'm not sure that reservoir of support exists for somebody from out of state that no one had ever heard of until 48 hours ago. So it'd be interesting to see if Mark Kennedy can survive. I have to note, I think it is just bad practice as a general rule, but it is becoming the rule now to only have one finalist for all these high-profile jobs, whether it's at CU, at CSU, in Denver Public Schools recently. You can go on. I mean, at that point, it's not a finalist. It's a presumptive candidate. It's a presumptive designee. Let's at least get our vernacular straight and maybe present some alternatives here.
Chris, as has been said here, conservatives have successfully led the CU school system for many years. We had Hank Brown before Bruce Benson. So being conservative is not necessarily a deal breaker. You're not running for mayor of Boulder. But how this was handled seems to be a bigger case. Are you sensing any voices in the regions that will hear I was for it before I was against it, maybe in a couple, I guess it was in 30 days or so?
It's going to be an interesting week. But here's the thing: if you pick a politician, you're going to have somebody who makes good speeches, somebody who can handle the legislature, and somebody who can raise money. And there's also going to be a treasure trove of oppo research possibilities in terms of votes, in terms of things said. And I think the personnel issue, how he handled that, is important, because you do personnel issues when you handle those when you are a CU president. However, if they say that we're not going to choose him because of how he voted, they're basically saying that we're intolerant of conservatives, despite the fact that the last two were presidents. And CU, they love to talk a good game about tolerance. We love diversity. We love diversity. Well, if you say that you don't want him now because of conservative votes that he took, you're basically calling yourself a hypocrite. So CU, if there really is a significant issue with this personnel situation, then fine. I think that's significant. If you're going to dump him now because you don't like the way he voted, then you're maybe showing your true colors on diversity and on tolerance.